Hi there, I'm Sue. I have been on the carnivore diet now for just over 8 months. I was diagnosed with pyroluria almost 10 years ago, and so today I'm going to talk about pyroluria, also known as Pyrrole disorder, and nutrition and the conclusions that I'm coming to being on the carnivore diet. So, nearly 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 2014, I was diagnosed with pyroluria or Pyrrole disorder. I have the first video on this channel where I talked about that. So the video was actually uploaded onto this channel in 2019 because I closed my other channel down and moved it. But the video was actually made in 2014 after I'd been diagnosed. So at that point in 2014, I'd been diagnosed with an overactive thyroid about 3 years before that, I think, and had worked my way through that, sorted that out naturally. And then we'd been away to Western Australia and come back to Queensland, and when we were away, I just wasn't very good, and I was putting everything down to menopause and thyroid still, because I felt like my thyroid had gone low again. But I don't go to doctors really unless I really have to. So I didn't know whether it was, but I've always kind of monitored my thyroid. I did for a lot of years. I don't anymore, using my basal body temperature. And so at that point it was low again. And so I figured that my thyroid was low, and the whole menopause thing, because I got pushed into menopause when I was 44 through stress and a failing business. I might talk about that one day on here. At the age of 50, I was functioning, but I was a functioning mess, basically. Working because I had to, because I'm the breadwinner in our house, but just kind of struggling along. So when we came back from Western Australia, I had decided that I was going to go and see Dr Greg Emmerson. He's in Queensland. He actually lost his license a few years ago now for doing the right thing. They're good like that, the medical fraternity. But he still does videos and things online, I think, and still manages to earn a living helping people, which is awesome. But I had heard him speak at a couple of seminars that I'd been to, and so I decided I was going to go and see him to try and work out what was going on with me. So when I went and saw him, he asked me why I was there, and because the first appointment with him was for an hour, and he asked me why I was there. So I start rabbiting on about thyroid and menopause and everything else, and he said to me, stop. So I stopped, and he said, tell me the one thing that's made you come and see me here today. And it was like $500 to go and see him. He said, so tell me the one thing that's made you spend $500 to come and see me. And I went, anxiety. And he said to me, you don't look like somebody who's anxious. And I said, I've got pretty good at hiding it in the last 50 years, I guess. And he said, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions. So he goes and gets this folder, and he comes back and he starts asking me these questions. And to tell my hubby I'm making a video, he's about to come inside. So he gets out this folder and he starts asking me all these questions. And so he went through a few questions, and then he said to me, do you have an issue with fear? And I said, oh, do I what? And he closed up the folder. He said to me, I don't have to ask any more questions. He goes, somebody who doesn't have what I think you have will say to me, fear, what do you mean? He said, but the way you answered it, he said, I know. He said, I can pretty much guarantee that you're a textbook case. So I said, of what? And he said, have you heard of Pyrrole disorder? And I said, no. And so he showed me a video online. I think it was one from the Walsh Institute. And I was like, oh my God. And so he sent me for the test that day in Brisbane. He phoned the pathology lab and told them he was sending me down because it was last minute. And it's just a urine test to test for pyrroles, but it has to be done by specific labs because not all labs know what to do with it. So he sent me to get the test done, and we're driving. He was in Brisbane, we were living in Harvey Bay, so it was about a 3.5 hour drive home. On the way home, I'm looking things up on my phone, and I said to hubby, if this isn't it, I will eat my hat. And so anyway, I get my test results, and bingo, it's positive. So I started on compounded supplements, and they made a huge difference to me straight away. Didn't fix it, but I could feel the difference with my anxiety, because I was at a point where I would really struggle to talk to people. I'd be panicking inside and wanting to bolt. And I'd been like that before, but this had got really bad. And so in my workplace, I was okay on the phones. I was working in a call center. If I was on the phone, I was fine. But having to like speak to other work colleagues like one-on-one, I'd start off like first couple of minutes might be okay, and then I'm wanting to just bolt because the tension inside me was so bad. So that changed fairly quickly on the supplements, and I think that was because I'd already been working on my gut health, maybe, and then perhaps better than some people's when they're diagnosed with pyroluria. So I was on the compounded supplements for a couple of years, and then we shifted back to New Zealand, and I kind of wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I couldn't really find a doctor that I was happy with, and so I just took matters into my own hands and started ordering supplements, all the individual ones from iHerb in the States. And I did that probably maybe the first 3 or 4 years that we were back in New Zealand. I'm not sure when I stopped them. I eventually started kind of weaning off them, and then went off them completely, and didn't notice a huge difference at that stage between having them and not. So things still aren't perfect, obviously, because I'm still trying to work stuff out for my anxiety, and that's why I'm taking CBD. I'm going to do some videos on my results with the CBD. I've only been on it for a few days at this stage. But anyway, so I came off the supplements, and things were just pretty much the same as they had been on them. So I've just left it like that. I did take the doTERRA supplements for a while and found that they really helped, and then I stopped again, and I've been kind of muddling along without them, and then it just experimenting with diet and stuff. And so the Pyrolle disorder, if you don't know what that is, it is a disorder that can be genetic, and it can be brought on by stress, whereby one of the normal functions of your spleen is when it processes, or normal byproduct, when it processes red blood cells, it makes these cryptopyrroles, which are a byproduct that then pass out of your body through your urine. So as far as medicine knows, there's nothing that those pyrroles actually do. They're just a waste product. But one of the things that they do is bind zinc and vitamin B6. So in someone with normal cryptopyrrole levels, that's okay. But in people with Pyrolle disorder, or people who are under a lot of stress, it's making more cryptopyrroles, which means it's binding more zinc and B6 and making it unavailable and passing it out through the body. So you end up with deficiencies in zinc and B6. And when this has been going on for years and years, or a whole lifetime, those deficiencies just get worse and worse, and they exacerbate other deficiencies, and they cause problems. So the zinc is used by every system of the body. So it's common for people with the zinc deficiency to have hormone issues and thyroid issues, things to do with the endocrine system. It can play a part, I think, in skin issues and things like that as well. And then the B6 affects the mental side of things. So it's common for people with pyroluria to have anxiety and depression. It's associated with schizophrenia. It's associated with alcoholism. It's associated with anger issues. They estimate that up to 10% of the population have pyroluria, and it's higher in people with Irish ancestry. So that's what it is. The supplements are the answer when people are diagnosed, but the subject of diet is something that's not really looked at enough, I don't think. And from my understanding, a lot of people with pyroluria for some reason tend to gravitate towards vegan and vegetarian diets. Now, why that is, I don't know. They kind of assume that maybe it's to do with not having enough stomach acid or stuff like that. I think it's probably got more to do with your gut bacteria, and that maybe because of the deficiency, something changes in the gut bacteria, and so they're calling for carbs. They're calling it and this is the aversion to meat products. I'm not sure whether that's correct or not, but that's my thought. But if you go to a vegan or vegetarian diet, you're doing absolutely the wrong thing with Pyroluria, because you are moving towards less bioavailable zinc, higher levels of copper potentially, and low B6. And then what I'm learning since I've been on the carnivore diet and I've been looking into all this oxalate stuff, I just did a video on oxalates yesterday, and so it's just a couple of videos back on my channel. But what I've learned about oxalates, and I'm currently reading Sally Norton's book about oxalates, so she's an expert on this topic and has researched it for 20 years, is that the oxalates in plant foods make the nutrients less available. So even though they can test something, like, for example, they might test spinach and it's got, this much calcium in it, that calcium is not available to us when we eat it because it's bound up with oxalate. So there's all of this kind of misinformation, I think it is, with regards to plants and plant-based diets, and misinformation with regards to animal foods, because the animal foods have got the highest, most bioavailable nutrition in them and have been our staple and species appropriate diet forever. So we were hunters, and so that the meat and animal products have been what we ate forever. So my experience on carnivore so far has been great, apart from finding my way through histamine and oxalate issues, which is what I talk about in that video from a couple of days ago. But I finally feel like I'm on the other side of that. I'm feeling changes in my body that are amazing. I've got a year until I turn 60, and I'm feeling better now than I have for quite some time. And I still have shit days, but the good days are good, and it's I feel stronger, and my mental acuity and my brain functions is way better. And you wouldn't believe it looking at my videos sometimes, but it is. And my ability to concentrate and my comprehension are going back to the way they used to be, because I used to be able to manage just about anything, mentally. I was really good at using my mind. But in recent years, I had noticed that was kind of declining a bit, and that was kind of concerning me a wee bit. So that's all changing. I think that a lot of the symptoms that I was having were down to my very high oxalate diet that I've had for years. And so if you have pyroluria and you're on a plant-based diet, whether it's vegetarian or vegan, at least look at information about oxalates. Good information. There's some bad information online. Look at Sally Norton's information and the links that she points you to, about which foods are worse and how to lower that in your diet. You don't want to stop it completely like I do, because it sends you into a whole world of misery, and it can be dangerous. But lower it, and get yourself onto a low oxalate diet and let your body clean that stuff out of your body, because it's a poison. So I think that that's probably a big part for a lot of people with Pyrolle disorder, is the plant-based diet or eating a high plant diet. I think that that's kind of contributing to what's going on with a lot of us. And then it messes up our gut, and then that makes things worse, and we end up with leaky gut, and we end up with food allergies, and we end up with all the anxiety and because our gut's not right, and the gut, it's this big fucking downward spiral. And the misinformation that's been put out about diet, I think, is just criminal. But it's been put out by criminals, I think. We just don't know it. So if you are doubting what I'm saying about carnivore, my advice to you would be try it. Just try it. It's not going to kill you, and you never know. You might just be surprised, because for me to go from, I've been on every freaking diet you can think of, and I have been vegan and fruitarian and vegetarian for years. And then even when I went back to eating meat, I was very much still swinging towards a high plant-based diet and all the superfoods that are full of oxalates. So for me to be doing this, like, it sounded crazy to me when I first heard of carnivore a couple of years ago. I was just like, that sounds a little bit radical, but you know what? It works. It works. And I think that the oxalates are a big part. I think that pesticides and stuff on plants is also a big part. I mean, we ate mostly, as much as we could, organic diet. But there's stuff that comes out of the sky that you don't know is there, potentially, and all sorts of things. Whereas when those things go through an animal, the animal's liver is processing it. And so you might get small amounts through into the meat and stuff, but not like you're getting off plants. So I think that that's part of it as well. I just have a sneaking suspicion. So yeah, so I think that's all I wanted to say. I changed my camera because my videos, I was looking really red in the other room, and I think it was the lighting that I was using. So I'm sitting in front of the kitchen window today to see if that's better. So yeah, I think that's all. If you've got any comments or questions, please fire away below. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, share with anybody that might find it useful. And that's it. So thank you for watching. I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.